Welcome to vpod.ai. I'm your host, Mike, and sitting across from me is our guest expert, Susan.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here and get into this today.
You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today.
Yeah, that really is a fantastic deal.
Right. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Today, we are exploring a really massive assumption that is basically driving almost every corporate strategy in the world right now.
Yeah, the idea that artificial intelligence is, well, that it always will be cheaper than human labor.
Exactly. I mean, it feels like basic arithmetic to most leaders. You look at a junior analyst, right? And they cost you, say, $50,000 a year.
Right.
And then you compare that to an enterprise AI agent that runs about $10,000 a year. So on paper, replacing that human looks like an absolute no-brainer.
Oh, totally. It looks like a huge win.
But our mission today, for you listening, is to unpack the hidden economic traps behind this massive adoption frenzy. We've been looking at a lot of recent enterprise reports, MIT research, and market data to figure out why companies might actually be hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, well, they're basically patting themselves on the back for saving it.
Exactly. And most importantly, we want to reveal what happens when these cheap automated replacements silently turn into incredibly expensive dependencies that your business just can't escape.
The dynamic playing out right now is so fascinating because it assumes tech companies are operating like public utilities.
Which they definitely are not.
No, not at all. The fundamental flaw in this whole AI is cheaper narrative is that it completely ignores the end goal of the vendors selling you these tools.
Right.
I mean, they are not trying to give away business intelligence at a discount out of the kindness of their hearts. Their overarching objective is value capture.
Value capture. Meaning what exactly?
Meaning they want to lower the barrier to entry, get you to embed their models so deeply into your daily workflows that they feel like oxygen, and then eventually they just charge you whatever the market will bear once you literally can't breathe without them.
Wow. So we are talking about a classic bait and switch here.
Absolutely.
First, you eliminate the friction so everyone just walks through the door. Then you build the dependency, and finally you slam the door shut and start collecting the real money.
That business model is like the absolute bedrock of platform economics. You introduce a product that is wildly cheap, hyper-convenient, and accessible to everyone.
Right.
Users flock to it, businesses integrate it into their core operations, and entire industries start relying on it to just function. And once that foundational dependency is locked in...
The trap snaps shut.
Exactly. The cost of switching to a competitor or going back to the old way of doing things, it becomes prohibitively high. That is the exact moment the platform provider gains total pricing power over your business.
I feel like we've lived through this exact cycle before. I mean, look at how Uber completely rewired city transportation.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right. When they first rolled out, they didn't run marketing campaigns saying, hey, our 10-year plan is to make your daily commute much more expensive.
Right. Nobody would have downloaded the app.
Exactly. They came in heavily subsidized by venture capital. They were the unbelievably cheap, hyper-convenient alternative to traditional taxis.
And they fundamentally changed your habits as a rider?
Yes. Consequently, the taxi industry weakened or just completely collapsed in many cities. And then once Uber had established themselves as the default platform for urban transit and the alternatives were gone.
So economics completely flipped.
Right. The subsidies vanished, the prices spiked, and that cheap alternative suddenly wasn't so cheap anymore.
Software companies mastered this playbook years ago, too. Adobe is a really prime example of this.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't achieve their current market dominance by just, selling you a physical CD-ROM of Photoshop for a one-time fee and wishing you well.
I miss those days, honestly.
We all do. But they aggressively migrated their entire customer base over to the Creative Cloud subscription model. In the beginning, it looked like a fantastic deal.
Right. Lower upfront costs, you get access to every tool they make.
Exactly. But as creative agencies and freelancers and even universities built their entire digital infrastructure around Adobe's proprietary file formats, it changed.
Right.
It stopped being a tool you bought, and it morphed into a mandatory monthly utility bill. You just have to pay it to keep your agency's doors open.
It's essentially an invisible toll booth being built right in the middle of your daily commuter route.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, in the early days, they let you drive through for pennies just to get you accustomed to the smooth new road.
Right.
Then a few years later, after you've totally forgotten the old back roads and thrown away your physical map, the toll quietly goes up to $5, then 10, then 20. But here's where I want to push back on this a bit. Because we survived the transition to the cloud, right? We survived software lock-in and renting server space from Amazon or Microsoft.
Sure.
So why is losing human capability to an AI vendor any more dangerous than just relying on traditional cloud servers to host a website?
Because the nature of what you are outsourcing is entirely different this time.
How so?
Well, traditional cloud computing replaced a physical tool, right? A server rack sitting in a closet.
Right.
Generative AI is replacing cognitive capability. If your company stops training junior analysts or completely hollows out your customer service team or lets your internal research capacity wither away because a large language model can just summarize documents faster,
Yeah.
the vendor isn't just selling you software anymore. They are literally renting back your organization's lost brain power.
Renting back your lost capacity. Wow. That changes the corporate math in a really terrifying way.
It really does. You have to consider the long-term impact on institutional knowledge. Once that internal expertise is gone, and your employees quite literally do not know how to execute a core workflow without the AI model guiding them, you're trapped.
Because they can't do the job without the bot.
Exactly. That $20 a month AI seat license. It will not stay $20. It will inevitably become $40, then $80, then $120.
You just have to pay it.
You do. And by the time that invoice hits your desk, your company will have fewer human alternatives, diminished internal skill, and massive vendor dependence. You haven't just automated a task, you have completely surrendered your operational sovereignty.
So if companies are eagerly walking right into this dependency trap, you would assume they're at least seeing some massive immediate financial benefits right now to justify the risk.
You would think so, yeah.
But looking at the market data, that seems to be a complete illusion. There is this staggering disconnect between the billions being spent on AI and the actual return on investment hitting the balance sheet.
Oh, the latest figures are genuinely sobering. Let's look at the 2025 Gen AI Divide Report, published by MIT.
Okay.
They analyzed an enterprise landscape where roughly $30 to $40 billion has been pumped into generative AI investments.
That is an insane amount of money.
Huge. But despite that massive injection of capital, 95% of the organizations they studied were generating zero measurable financial return.
Wait, 95% getting zero measurable return.
Zero.
With technology this demonstrably powerful, how is a failure rate that high even possible?
Because the failure isn't happening at the technological level, it's happening at the integration level.
Ah.
The models themselves are brilliant, but organizations are just, buying licenses, handing them out to thousands of employees, and completely failing to adapt their underlying business processes.
So they're just slapping a button on old workflows.
Exactly. The tools are being treated like magic wands rather than complex instruments. So you have this historic wave of enterprise spending resulting in incredibly weak, fragmented returns. The real danger isn't that AI is a useless fad. The danger is that AI is just useful enough on a personal level to justify highly irrational spending at the corporate level.
And we are seeing that irrational behavior scale up to the infrastructure level in a massive way, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Because Microsoft is projecting they will spend around $80 billion in fiscal year 2025 alone on AI-enabled data centers.
80 billion, it's almost hard to comprehend.
It is. That isn't a software update. That is an industrial revolution scale build-out.
Right. We are talking about acquiring cutting-edge chips, managing unprecedented energy consumption, building massive liquid cooling systems, and just securing the real estate.
Exactly. Economically, running artificial intelligence behaves much more like operating a heavy manufacturing plant than just like scaling a traditional software app.
And the physical reality of AI is incredibly resource-intensive, and the costs of running that heavy industry are inevitably passed down to the end user.
Which brings us to the Uber coding disaster.
Yes. Uber's recent internal coding initiative is a perfect illustration of how this plays out in practice. They implemented AI coding assistants and reportedly had 95% of their engineers using these tools on a monthly basis. And even more aggressively, 70% of the code they were committing was actually generated by the AI.
See, my instinct from the software as a service world tells me that should be a massive success story.
This sounds like one.
Right. Yeah. In traditional SaaS, if you have 95% monthly active users, your customer health is just off the charts. But you're telling me this actually caused a budget disaster. I'm completely lost. How does incredibly high usage equal failure here?
To understand that, we have to look at the mechanism of how these tools are actually built.
Okay.
With traditional software, the marginal cost of serving one more user was basically zero. Once you built the app, a million people clicking a button didn't really cost you anything extra. Generative AI fundamentally breaks that economic rule. Every single prompt you type, every image you generate, and every block of code the AI writes for you requires making an API call that consumes raw compute power.
So it burns electricity, it utilizes expensive GPUs.
Exactly. It costs real money. So Uber saw usage explode, but because every interaction cost fractions of a cent that compounded millions of times over, they burned through their entire AI tool budget for the year 2026 in just 4 months.
In 4 months. Wow. So every prompt is basically a microtransaction. High usage just isn't free anymore.
High usage in AI is highly ambiguous. I mean, it might mean your team is operating at peak productivity.
Okay.
Or it could mean your engineers are generating dozens of sloppy drafts they never end up using.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. It could mean they are trapped in a loop asking the chatbot repeated questions because the initial code it spat out was full of bugs.
Which then creates this massive mountain of review work for your senior developers to clean up.
Exactly. If management measures success simply by counting the number of prompts generated or the number of licenses activated, they are tracking vanity metrics.
Yeah.
Those metrics could actually be signaling massive financial waste.
And this tension, it perfectly illustrates the difference between what's being called push AI and pull AI, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Push AI is when an executive buys a shiny new tool, bundles it, and forcibly mandates its use across the company. Like Microsoft Copilot is a prime example.
Right.
It gets pushed into your Word documents, your Excel sheets, your Teams meetings, whether you actually ask for it or not.
Yeah.
But simply installing software doesn't manufacture trust.
Not at all.
I know plenty of professionals who actively resent having an AI just uninvitedly summarizing their meetings.
And when you force a tool onto a workforce that doesn't trust it, you don't get efficiency, you get shadow workflows.
Shadow workflows.
Yeah. In the old days, you could force a clunky payroll system onto employees because they had absolutely no other way to get paid.
All right, they had to use it.
But AI adoption is entirely dependent on trust. If an employee finds the mandated AI's output unreliable, or if the interface feels intrusive, they won't stop using AI entirely.
What do?
They will simply open a private browser tab, log into an unsanctioned consumer model they personally prefer, and do company work right there.
Ah,
That is, pull AI tools chosen voluntarily because they demonstrably solve the user's actual problem. Mandating a weak system just drives your workforce underground.
which creates massive data security and governance nightmares for the IT department, I imagine.
Oh, massive.
But, none of this shadow workflow governance matters if the actual product the AI spits out is flawless.
True.
The problem is it's not flawless. Let's look at what happens to a company's bottom line when output fails. Take the customer service industry, for example.
Okay.
We found data showing that in early 2024, the Claude model handled 2.3 million customer conversations in a single month, which is a workload equivalent of 700 full-time human agents. And it slashed resolution times from 11 minutes down to under 2 minutes.
That's incredible.
On a CFO spreadsheet, it looks like a miracle. Fewer human agents, blindingly fast answers, and a dramatically lower salary burden.
Automation at that scale is very seductive, yes. But it comes with a hidden trap.
What's that?
Automation does not erase liability, it multiplies it.
Right.
A falling salary line on a balance sheet can mask massive, invisible costs. If that lightning-fast automated system mishandles complex issues, frustrates your highest value clients, or confidently provides incorrect information.
Which we know they do.
Right. Those initial cost savings are instantly wiped out by customer churn and legal exposure.
And we saw this play out step by step with Air Canada, didn't we?
Oh, that case is wild.
They deployed a customer-facing chatbot on their website to handle routine inquiries. And a customer who had just suffered a family death went to the site seeking information on bereavement fares.
Right.
The chatbot, which lacks the strict logical boundaries of traditional programming, probabilistically strung together a highly plausible but entirely fake discount policy.
And the customer believed it.
Of course. The grieving customer, trusting the official interface, took a screenshot of the policy, booked the full price flight, and later applied for the refund the bot had explicitly promised.
And when Air Canada refused to honor the hallucinated policy, The customer took them to a civil resolution tribunal.
Yeah.
And Air Canada's defense was just astonishing. They actually tried to argue that the chatbot was a separate legal entity responsible for its own actions, and the airline shouldn't be held liable for the bot's hallucination.
Which is just an insane legal defense.
Unbelievable.
A tribunal obviously rejected that argument and held the airline fully liable. If your AI assistant gives a customer the wrong operational instruction or hallucinates a refund policy, your company owns that mistake entirely.
Exactly.
The brand damage and the legal fees eclipse whatever you save by not having a human answer that one chat.
And it isn't just complex legal or conversational scenarios that carry this risk either. Consider the physical world, which is inherently messy.
Okay.
Starbucks attempted to roll out a computer vision AI system designed to count inventory on the shelves automatically.
Right.
In theory, this is the perfect, tightly bounded, highly repetitive task for AI. But in practice, the camera struggled with basic physical realities.
Like what?
Glare from the lighting overlapping bags. The system simply couldn't reliably tell similar-looking coffee blends apart.
Because the AI was just slightly unreliable, it failed its primary purpose.
Yes.
The system generated incorrect data, which led to bad ordering and stockouts. Ultimately, it forced the employees to go back out onto the floor and manually count the coffee bags anyway to verify the numbers.
So it duplicated the work instead of eliminating it.
Exactly.
That case study proves a crucial point for business leaders. An AI system doesn't need to fail spectacularly to destroy value. It only needs to be slightly unreliable in a workflow where absolute reliability is the only thing that matters.
You know, I've been chewing on a concept related to this, something I call the danger of polished mediocrity.
Oh, polished mediocrity. I like that.
Yeah, we've all heard the old adage that the best lie is a half-truth rate.
Right.
I look at AI's ability to make almost right output look perfectly finished, and I ask myself, how does that change the economics of workplace errors?
Yeah.
Because when a human makes a mistake, it usually looks like a mistake, you know?
A typo, a messy spreadsheet.
Exactly. But an AI hallucination doesn't look like a glitch. It looks like a beautifully formatted, highly authoritative PDF.
You've identified the core vulnerability in how humans interact with these models.
Really?
Yes. Almost right is the most expensive kind of error a company can produce because it travels so much further down the pipeline.
Really?
If an AI generates a report that is wildly obviously wrong, a human reviewer catches it in 3 seconds and tosses it out. The cost of that error is essentially zero. But if the AI generates a confident executive summary, a slick slide deck, or an elegant block of code that is 95% factually correct, the human reviewer's brain relaxes.
We just let our guard down.
Exactly. That plausible, polished mistake sneaks past the radar. It gets forwarded to another department, it gets built upon in a larger project, it gets sent to clients or embedded into high-stakes financial decisions.
It basically weaponizes our own cognitive biases against us. We just trust things that look professional.
Precisely. And rooting out those subtle errors drastically increases the review burden on your most expensive employees. Let's return to software developers as an example.
Okay.
Surveys indicate that 79% of developers are using generative AI daily. They are saving immense amounts of time on boilerplate tasks.
The repetitive foundational code required to start a project.
Exactly. The AI can write that in seconds. But because the AI can subtly introduce architectural inconsistencies or hallucinate non-existent software libraries that look perfectly syntactically correct, a senior developer might have to spend 3 hours hunting down a bizarre bug that a junior developer would never have logically made.
Wow.
The work hasn't been eliminated. The bottleneck has simply shifted from the physical typing of the code to the meticulous, exhausting auditing of the code.
Right. If AI output constantly requires this level of strict human oversight to prevent legal liabilities and cascading errors, then the fundamental nature of human work isn't ending.
No, it's not.
It is just shifting. For the last 100 years, production was the bottleneck. Getting the words on the page or the code on the screen was the hard part.
Exactly.
Now, production is instantaneous. Judgment is the bottleneck.
That transition from production to judgment is the central insight most companies are completely missing right now.
Really?
Yes, AI makes raw output abundant and cheap. Economics dictates that when output becomes abundant, interpretation, curation, and judgment become the scarce, highly valuable resources.
Is this code actually secure? Is this contract legally compliant in our specific jurisdiction? Is this aggressively worded email actually worth sending to our biggest client?
Exactly. AI cannot answer those contextual questions.
And this shift creates a fascinating and frankly dangerous divide inside organizations because AI doesn't elevate everyone's performance equally, does it?
Far from it. When poorly managed, AI severely widens the performance gap. Your true experts, the people who possess deep, hard-won domain knowledge, they use AI as leverage.
Right.
Because they already know exactly what a pristine, accurate answer looks like. They can delegate the heavy lifting to the AI, quickly spot the hallucinations, and become insanely productive.
But the novices.
Right, your entry-level employees, they use AI as a substitute for true understanding. Instead of wrestling with a problem and learning the underlying mechanics, they lean on the chatbot like a crutch.
Which introduces hidden errors into the company's workflow.
And it completely stunts the professional learning curve of your junior staff.
It creates a system that fiercely rewards existing expertise while actively punishing inexperience. Which means the real divide in the corporate world over the next 5 years won't be a simple binary between companies that have AI and companies that don't.
No, it won't.
It will be between companies that carefully integrate it as a lever for their experts and companies that just blindly mandate it everywhere as a cost-cutting measure.
And recognizing that divide is why we are on the precipice of a massive shift in corporate strategy. We are about to enter the era of subtracting AI.
Subtracting it after all this relentless hype and billions of dollars in infrastructure investment.
Yes, the initial hype cycle heavily rewarded executives for slapping an AI-powered button on every single product and internal process they could find.
Oh, for sure.
The next phase will be driven by disciplined CFOs who finally get a look at the ballooning cloud compute bills. They are going to ruthlessly audit those costs and start killing off weak pilot programs.
So the strategic question in boardrooms is shifting.
Exactly, from do we have an AI strategy to which specific workflows actually produce a measurable, verifiable financial return.
And ironically, the workflows that produce the best returns are rarely the ones making headlines. We're talking about the rise of boring AI.
Boring AI is entirely where the sustainable enterprise value is being built.
It's true. Everyone gets mesmerized by the flashy, general-purpose chatbots that can write a passable poem in the style of Shakespeare while generating an image of a cat on Mars.
Right.
But the massive balance sheet altering value lies in narrow, highly specific, and deeply unsexy tasks.
To give you a practical example of how this looks in the real world,
Right.
imagine you run a logistics department.
Okay.
Your team spends hundreds of hours a week manually reading complex, inconsistently formatted PDF invoices from various international vendors and typing that data into your internal tracking system.
Sounds painful.
It is. If you deploy a narrow, specialized AI model specifically trained just to extract that data and auto-populate your spreadsheets, and it cuts your manual data entry errors by 30%.
You have created real leverage.
Exactly. You've sped up cycle times and reduced costly human error. That creates exponentially more tangible value for your business than buying a flashy enterprise chatbot license that every employee plays with twice and then completely ignores because it hallucinates half the time.
So, synthesizing all of these mechanisms into a practical survival guide for you listening right now.
Right.
If you are a leader trying to avoid the dependency trap and the illusion of cost savings, how do you actually measure whether an AI tool is acting as a powerful lever for your team or just creating a dangerous, expensive crutch?
The first rule is that you must start with the operational problem, never the technological tool.
Right. Don't just buy a hammer and look for a nail.
Exactly. Do not look at a new AI model and ask your team, where can we squeeze this into our company? Look critically at your operations and ask, what specific workflow is too slow, too expensive, prone to risk, or severely capacity constrained?
Makes sense.
Furthermore, you have to establish a baseline before you deploy anything. If you don't know your current error rate, your average cycle time, or your baseline customer satisfaction score, you will never be able to mathematically prove that the AI actually improved anything.
You have to demand outcomes, not just activity metrics.
Calculate the full, unvarnished cost. Do not just look at the attractive monthly software license fee.
Because there's more to it.
Much more. Factor in the escalating API compute usage, the integration time, the employee training hours, the massive human review burden required to catch those polished errors we talked about, and the potential legal risks of a hallucination hitting a client.
Wow.
And finally, test the simplest, most honest signal of value. Do your employees voluntarily return to the tool?
the pull AI concept.
Yes, if your team is quietly avoiding the mandated AI and returning to their old workflows, you need to listen to them. That isn't just stubborn human resistance to change, that is vital frontline market feedback telling you the tool simply isn't working as promised.
This entire discussion really boils down to a fundamental truth about this technology. AI is not magic. It is a complex trade-off.
Absolutely.
You are constantly balancing the promise of leverage against the peril of dependence. The central warning we want you to take away from our analysis today is this. If you rush to hollow out your human workforce before you truly understand the intricate, hidden mechanics of the work itself,
You are trading long-term corporate resilience for a very brief, incredibly fragile illusion of short-term efficiency.
exactly, you might see a massive cost savings on your spreadsheet in year one. But by year three, you will have evaporated your institutional memory, lost your operational context, and degraded your human intuition.
And you will find yourself paying a massive premium to a single tech vendor just to keep the lights on.
It is a profound and uncomfortable shift in how we must value human capital going forward. This transition is incredibly complex, deeply entrenched in human psychology, and far more precarious than the marketing brochure suggests.
It really is.
So we want to leave you with one final, slightly chilling question to mull over as you look at the future of your own organization.
Okay.
If AI inherently makes expert human judgment the single most valuable and scarce resource in the world, what exactly happens a decade from now?
Right.
When today's novices, who spent their foundational early career years relying on AI to generate answers instead of wrestling with problems and manually learning the ropes, are promoted into the senior expert roles supposed to oversee these algorithms. Will there be anyone left in the building who actually knows what a right answer looks like?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question every executive needs to be asking right now.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation today. Keep questioning the defaults, and we will catch you next time.